Welcome to The Thriving Mama, the podcast that teaches you not just how to survive, but to thrive in motherhood. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Davis. Fall is a time for reflection and introspection, and things slow down. And it's just, there's a definite change in the air. There's a change in the energy. And so when I'm working with people, it gives us the opportunity to reflect on areas of our lives that can be improved. And it's funny because a lot of times we talk about toxicity and people think automatically about food, air, water, and all of those are relevant. But sometimes the most toxic thing in our life can be relationships. And during the fall, I often invite people to reflect on that. Like, what relationships are serving you? That which ones are feeding your soul? Do you feel respected, seen, loved? Which ones are not? There's so many ways that you can see this happening, but I would say communication and conversations tell us so much about the quality of our relationships. Some things that I ask people to think about are like, when you're talking to somebody, do you feel like they're distracted? Do you feel like they are already formulating their next sentence? Are they really actively listening to you? Recently, in the past couple of weeks, I've had family here and I've had experiences with friends, both on the phone and in person, where I didn't always feel great walking away from that interaction. It was like I either felt like I was being talked over, or the person I was in a conversation with was just waiting to fire away their thoughts. And so often, like, there was no pause. It was like someone would say something, then this other person would immediately respond. It was like it happened to be a she, felt so insecure in that moment that she constantly had to keep inserting her thoughts. And I find that a lot with women, my interactions with women. So it's really interesting how you can kind of, see, ask yourself, is this person somebody I want in my life? Is this person projecting onto me? Is this person worth having a conversation about, the interaction? So we're going to get into all of that in this episode. The three main points that we're going to talk about, though, are, kind of the traits of people you do and don't want in your life, how you can see if they're a keeper through their kind of communication with you, and how to navigate the release of people who are not bringing kindness and love and respect to your life. If you're confused about where to start addressing your own health, I'm offering podcast listeners a free health check where I'll evaluate your physical, mental, and emotional health and provide useful resources to help you on your journey. You'll find that link in the show notes. So to get back to, fall being a time of reflection and eventual transformation, like I said, that's a theme I talk a lot about at this time of the year. Fall going into winter, things slow down. The leaves are falling, and it's a great time to check in with yourself. This is one of the exercises I have people do is, who are you surrounding yourself with? These are some traits that you should be looking for, support and love you for who you are and not who they want you to be or who they think you are. Do they encourage your growth? Because lots of times with growth comes change, and a lot of people don't like that. Do they respect you enough to respect your choices, your boundaries, and your privacy? I find this is where a lot of breakdown happens. There will be boundary violations, that you'll get passive aggressive comments about your choices, privacy, like you tell somebody something in confidence and then they go share it with somebody else. It's another, thing that to be looking at. Do they communicate their feelings with you in a healthy and respectful way, even if you disagree? This one's a big one, especially with what's going on in the world and politics and all of the things. Do they communicate in ways you both feel heard and seen? This one we're going to talk about a little bit further, right? Giving their undivided attention to you. They're not looking at their phone, watch, TV, or other, distraction. Distract them from the conversation or the interaction you're having. Do they cheer you on through the ups and downs of life? That's another big one. Like I just kind of alluded to before, as you're changing and growing, Are they supporting you and cheering you through this? Or do they want you to change and be the old version of yourself? And that kind of leads us to one of the next points is inspiring you to be a better version of yourself. Do they bring a lot to the table in your relationship? Do they make you want to grow as a person? Do they understand that we evolve and grow as people and support it? That's another big one. Do they have personal high standards? Do they act with honesty, integrity, and self-awareness and expect the same of you? I mean, that should be a no-brainer in a relationship. If people are not doing that, you don't really want them in your lives. And do they prioritize relationships and community themselves? When I see people who, it's one thing to be introverted, but it's another thing to just totally avoid relationships and community and support. That tells you a lot about somebody. I mean, truthfully, I'm a very introverted person. I have to recharge after I'm with a large group of people, but that doesn't mean I don't like being around people and I don't like community. I actually love community and it's a really important part of my life. And so something to think about is if these people don't meet those criteria, you should see how they fit into your life and if they should be there at all. And that applies to friends and family. Often in the work that I'm doing, I see people torn apart or held back by friends and family that don't respect them, don't support them, or really truly love and care about the person to have a mature and honest relationship. If you have to tiptoe around certain conversations or walk on eggshells around somebody, even if it's a family member, maybe it's time to put up a boundary and say, this isn't a relationship that's serving either one of us well. And, if you can have a conversation with them about it, that's great. But if that person's not going to be open to a conversation, maybe it's time to just slowly distance yourself, not engage with them. Maybe it's you only have to see them at family gatherings. That's a really important thing. Sometimes, we need to have those hard conversations and set boundaries. So if it's, you really want to make sure that you can have those conversations and you don't get blown off or gaslit. And if that does happen, it's a reflection of that relationship and that person. And maybe that relationship's run its course and it's not serving you anymore. And if you can have a conversation, the hard conversations and end up in a better place, that's amazing. Then you both can work on forging a better path forward together that allows you both the space to grow and bloom and be supportive. Those conversations are hard. Like I said earlier, I'd been in some conversations recently, and one of them is a pretty good friend of mine. And I realized that when I talk to her, I don't feel like I'm actually truly being heard. I feel like this person is always talking over me or trying to interject or trying to match with me. And I get that because that is part of a connection, but it also speaks to insecurity. And so I have personally formulated a conversation that I'm going to have with her. And it's just going to be essentially hey, this is how I'm feeling. I know that you're not intentionally doing this to hurt me or make me feel badly or make me feel unsupported or unseen, but that's what's happening. And so that's, the easiest way. And if you can't have those conversations, then again, like I said, it's maybe a time to reevaluate that relationship. And I encourage people to sit with this. This is not something you take lightly. And when you do this and you're honest with yourself, the answers are there. Just sit with it and sit with the quiet and listen to your heart. I also I encourage you to consider these points when also meeting newer people. Is this what is the energy or the vibe you're getting from them? Will they enhance your life in some way, uplift your life? Do they just want something from you? Do they seem competent, respectful, and self-aware? Do they want the best for other people truly, or are they silently competing or judging? That's a real thing. And I find that in spaces of women to women, that can happen a lot. That's why I am extraordinarily careful in the people that I choose to have around me, especially my close friends and family. Do they try to push their beliefs and ideas on you without respecting yours or even asking about them? I have found that in a few conversations I've had recently too. I met up with somebody recently in my local community, and I felt like from the get-go, she was trying to insert little, pieces here and there about like it happened to be, I would say, religious beliefs, but also beliefs on raising children and things like that. And it just really turned me off of the conversation. Now I understand that's where she is, but she never asked me about my beliefs or what I felt about any of these. And she made the assumption that I was on the same page as her. And while there were things that I did agree with, there were a lot of things I didn't agree with. And I did not like how that conversation was playing out. And so I also felt like there was a lack of self-awareness there, obviously. And so I was just very turned off by that. And it's interesting because the next point I have is, are they self-aware? So like that whole conversation just turned me off. And it's not somebody that I really feel like it's important for me to prioritize investing in that relationship anymore. I know we'll see each other, kind of in passing in the community, but it's not a relationship that I felt I would be respected, valued, seen, and heard. So I would say, if this all seems hard, like I said, focus in on yourself first, your awareness, your growth, your beliefs, your mindset, your core values and principles. That's a good place to start. And a lot of people they think they know that about themselves, but they really don't. So really dialing that in is important. So I would encourage you to sit with that and write it out, understand exactly who you are and who and what you want in your world. Because by understanding yourself and what's important to you, you'll be able to identify those human leaves that need to fall from your tree so that you can grow and thrive. The next piece of this is, how do people interact and treat you when they're speaking with you? Whether it's really telling when you're in person, but also you can hear this on the phone too, or on FaceTime or Zoom or things like that. This really speaks to the quality of relationships, respect, and boundaries. Things that I tell people to look for. Do they listen to you intently? Do they reply to you thoughtfully? Are there little pauses? Are they automatically jumping on a response? Those are little nuances that speak so much to the quality of the interaction. Are they truly engaged in the conversation, or are they distracted like we talked about before? Do they validate your thoughts and feelings? Do you feel heard and seen? Can you have tough conversations with respect and agree to disagree? Those are the characteristics you want in those conversations and those interactions. What you don't want is, are they always thinking of what they want to say next and not truly hearing you? We kind of went over that, but like you can tell, I can always tell, even when I'm on the phone with somebody, it's like there is no dead space ever. Like a lot of people are uncomfortable with quietness in a conversation, but there's no dead space. There's never a pause. It's like they're practically stumbling over their words, to try to, compete with what you're saying. Are they competing with you? It's like when you say something good has happened for you, are they saying, oh, that happened to me too, or something better happened? Or when something bad is happening for you, they have to have something worse. Is it like a competition for them? That is not something you want. You want somebody who sees you and meets you where you're at. And yes, they might have a similar, piece or experience that's happened to them, and that's okay. But they need to allow the space for you to have your thoughts and feelings and emotions and allow for you to be seen and heard. And then you can move on to like maybe they have a thoughtful way that they dealt with it and it can help you. But if they're just doing it to, railroad you, that's not great. Here's another important one. Are they the type of person that always monopolizes the conversation? And like I use the term railroad, they railroad everyone else around them. In my family, this happens sometimes. There are a couple of particular people who literally dominate a conversation. And it's like when they get to be the center of attention, it's like they thrive off of that. And no matter who's saying anything, they run ragged, run roughshod all over whatever that person's saying. And it actually makes me feel uncomfortable to observe it because the person or the people who do this are so incredibly unaware. Can you, are they the type of person that, even when you're talking about things that are happening for you, it always comes back to them. Like no matter what, it always comes back to them. That's another thing that just tells you that they're very self-centered and self-indulgent, and that may not be a person that's really truly considering you or respects you or loves you. Do they interrupt you? That's an obvious one. Constantly. Do they finish your sentences? Nothing frustrates me more when I am trying to thoughtfully formulate a sentence and somebody's always trying to finish my sentence. Occasionally, sometimes, you forget a word and that's one thing, or something's on the tip of your tongue, you can't quite get it. But if they're constantly finishing your sentences, that is a huge red flag. Like that. Yeah, you don't need more of that in your life. Do you ever feel like you just want to shut down because that person won't stop talking? This is what happens to me. Like if this happens, if all of the things we've been talking about happen enough, I just stop talking. Like I just retreat into myself and I am truly disengaged from the interaction, and I'm listening, but I'm like really not engaged or caring, because obviously that person does not care about me. And so that beyond frustrates me. So I tend to shut down and disengage. And I know I've seen that in interactions like the one I was just talking about, where the person who just is the center of attention and just goes and has to be seen and heard. And everyone else around them just shuts down and is quiet. And it's really interesting and weird, because at the end of those, the person, when they finally get done their, kind of soapbox moment, all of a sudden there's just silence. And then everyone feels uncomfortable because no one wants to say anything, because if they say something, that person's probably going to try to monopolize the conversation again. Here's a little side note on that. If you can't ask that type of person a yes or no question, or like a simple one sentence question, and they have to sit there and go, that's another sign that, it's an issue. Like I said, I've had conversations like that recently, and that's not a good thing either. The other thing, the last piece is, are they dismissive to what you say? Like, again, this kind of falls into the gaslighting land, but are they not validating what you're saying? Or when you say this happened to me and they're like, oh, that's not a big deal, or, blah, 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 that type of thing. It's not, you don't want that either. All of those things that I just mentioned are things I intently pay attention to when I'm engaging with anybody, in person, virtually, or over the phone, because it really tells me where I should be placing my energy in relationships. I pay attention to the quality and the intention of the conversation and the interaction. I know everybody has a bad day and we all get excited sometimes, and especially if you haven't seen somebody in a while. So I know throw in the towel after one interaction, or, sometimes I'll wait for like the excitement to dissipate and, see what happens. But if the person's a repeat offender, it's not somebody I really want in my tribe. And it's like, we all deserve to be surrounded by people who care and respect and value us for who we are, and for our ups and downs and the growth that we may have. These are the people who listen intently and respond thoughtfully and intentionally. And like I said, if you can't, these are, the leaves that you need to shed this fall. And it can be difficult, but you'll find that it's very liberating, and the quality of your life improves when you start really cultivating and curating the people around you. Who are the people that, like I said, bring love, joy, respect, inspiration into your life, really help you feel your purpose too. Like there's so many things that people can bring to our lives. And, if they're not doing that, maybe it's a person to have on the periphery, or, not engage, just due to the way we evolve and the way relationships are. Sometimes relationships fade away, and sometimes it's okay to let relationships fade away. And it can be tough, especially if it was a relationship that was important to you in the past. I've had this. There were some, girlfriends in college that I loved, and we kept in touch, and then we got, had our kids and kind of moved our own ways. And it was sad, you can mourn those relationships, but at the same time, you can fill your life and your community and your relationships with people who are, all of the positive things, like I said before, love, respectful, care for you, they value you, all of those people, filling your life with that will enhance your life. And so I would love to hear back from you. If you have anyone who's on your list of falling leaves, or, somebody who you're thinking about this, feel free, drop a comment. If you have people on that list, how are you going to handle it? How do you want that to play out? And if you need any support about that, always feel free. You can comments, DMs. I'm always available.
If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Remember, knowledge is just the beginning. Taking action is what truly sparks change. If you're overwhelmed and don't have enough energy to make it through the day, I invite you to book a free 20-minute coaching call with me. It's a no-obligation chat where we can discuss your health goals and how I might be able to help you achieve them. Visit the link in the episode description to book that call. Until next time, keep striving for wellness, and remember, you have the power to not just survive, but thrive in motherhood.